feel love, and I ain't got no
I got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical in the mitten where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow. You a tadpole. Feel the love, feel the rush, feel the buzz.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. I'm coming to you from the Pod Shack outside beautiful Flint, Michigan, USA. My name is Randy, and with me is my somewhat regular co-host. His name is Tomko. Give a bow.
Hey, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing fantastic. If I was any better, I would be Eddie Vedder.
You're fantastic. You're not festive, full of joy, goodwill toward all. What the hell's wrong with you, sir?
I work in retail. That's...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it now.
Enough said, in the words of the immortal
Yes.
Stan Lee. Enough said. Excelsior. True believer. Boy, do we have an episode for you guys this week here, this time.
Oh, do we?
I don't know if I should say this week or something, because these are coming out at a feverish pace, these someone's favorite movie episodes. But this week we've got a horror classic, a prototype of the slasher, if you will. It's a little movie called Black Christmas.
Now, Randy, had you seen this movie prior to you recommending it to me?
I had not seen it before.
Yeah, same here. I knew of it by reputation only.
Yes, by reputation only. That's how I knew of it too, and I was eager to check it out. And what I got was not what I expected. And whether that means a good thing or a bad thing, well, dun dun dun. Listen to this episode, you'll find out. First, we're going to do something a little bit new because this is a podcast that's in its infancy, so we might be adding and subtracting some things. Here's a new segment I'd like to call Someone's Favorite Term. This has to do with the movie industry. We're going to teach the people some stuff. I mean, I wouldn't want them to listen to this and not come away with some knowledge to take to the trivia night at the bar. You know, you might win your table and get a kiss from some gal that was real happy that you helped her win. You know,
I am always happy to spread knowledge. Knowledge is power, sir.
And kisses too, right?
Kisses is, that's what I'm missing.
Excellent. Well, this will help you win trivia night, Tomko, and maybe old Mrs. Tomko will snuggle up to you under that mistletoe. She will swoon.
I lay this knowledge on her.
Absolutely. Term of the week is carsploitation. Are you familiar with this?
Carsploitation? Is this like the genre of Fast and the Furious type movie, or?
I suppose Fast and Furious would fit in there. Carsploitation films feature scenes of cars racing and crashing. They were produced mainly in the United States and Australia. Did you even know this was a genre?
I didn't, but that's one of those words where if it hadn't already been invented, someone would have needed to.
Exactly. Examples of the carsploitation genre include The Cars That Ate Paris.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Doesn't it, though? Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Gone in 60 Seconds, which was a 1974 movie, believe it or not. Death Race 2000, Race with the Devil, Mad Max, Dead End Drive-In, and more modern examples, Baby Driver, which was pretty good. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, that's a phenomenal movie.
Phenomenal. And Death Proof. What do you think of Death Proof?
Death Proof, it took a while to grow on me. I actually watched it not too long ago, and I still hate the dialogue, but it's, bar none, one of the greatest chase scenes I've ever watched.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's pretty damn great. Some people prefer that Planet Terror better, but not I.
Now, did you actually get a chance to see Grindhouse at the theater?
No, I really wanted to, but I did not get that chance. I'm not. Was it even playing around in these parts?
Yeah, it was playing just down the road at my local Cinemaplex, and I had a chance to watch it with the great HAB.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, he absolutely hated Death Proof when we walked out.
uh, well, I can see how you might. It is a bit different, that Death Proof.
Oh yeah,
The car, as I remember reading Tarantino describing it as a slasher movie where the car was the weapon, is how he described it.
I'd say that's a fairly appropriate and accurate description. Yes, sir.
Yeah. When you view it through that lens, and I think I did, I think I read that interview first before I saw it. Viewed through that lens, it's kind of interesting watch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's worth it for Kurt Russell's performance alone. I mean, if you don't get anything else out of that movie, Kurt Russell's fucking awesome.
I mean, Kurt Russell owns the screen at all times.
Well, with the head of hair like that, you can't help but, just command every scene you're in.
I mean, some men get all the looks and all the lucks and all the locks, too. It's
That
unfortunate.
lucky son of a bitch.
I know. He's full of L's, that guy. Except for losses.
Nice.
In the meantime, I want to know what our win-loss record is, Tomko. I want to know, in our next segment, what did Mrs. Tomko think of Black Christmas? Did she watch it with you?
She was in the room, but she was watching television on her iPad.
Oh, so we don't get an accurate assessment here this time.
No, she didn't even give this a chance. But I told her, hey, you like horror movies, you might want to check this out. So I might try to, sometime between now and New Year's, I'm hoping to sit her down and watch it.
Perfect. Let's get into it. Black Christmas. It initially had a different title in the U.S. because Warner Brothers thought audience might think that it was a blaxploitation movie.
That's great.
That's great and amazing and awesome. For those that don't know, blaxploitation, similar to carsploitation, except aimed at a African American or black audience. Examples of this include Dolomite, which is very popular right now due to the docudrama or whatever biopic on Netflix right now. Dolomite Is My Name, starring Eddie Murphy, which I've heard good things about.
Yes, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but that's just because I haven't been in a rush to watch an Eddie Murphy movie in over 20 years.
Fair enough. Other popular blaxploitation movies: Shaft, Blackula, I don't know, The Human Tornado,
Foxy Brown.
Oh, Foxy Brown. Let me tell you something about that Pam Grier. Hey, girl, hey.
Yes.
That's all I need to tell you about that. Warner Brothers thought, hey, Black Christmas might be a blaxploitation movie. Hilarious. When it premiered on television, it was titled Stranger in the House, which is an awful name. And during that week, unfortunately, 2 co-eds were murdered on the campus of Florida State University. So I believe it was even the governor petitioned the network to cancel the showing in Florida due to these slayings. And they were committed by none other than Ted Bundy. So that's creepy.
Sexy Ted.
Yeah. And it's kind of eerie, too, considering that it happened on the campus in a sorority house and based on the movie we're about to talk about. I can understand why people were like, hey, can we not right now with this?
Honestly, I definitely can see that because I got the Ted Bundy vibes from this story.
Oh, did you really? Nice.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Ted Bundy or any serial killers because I am not a sick freak, Tomko. So explain yourself.
Well, I don't think I can.
Okay, fair enough. The tagline on the poster of this movie: if this picture doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight, in capitals, which is funny. And the poster featured a drawing of Claire with a plastic bag on her head. Claire's a character in the movie, and you know what scene I'm referring
Oh, yeah.
to.
Oh, yeah.
It's drawn on the freaking movie poster, and it's very weird. If you've got a second, Google that in your machine, old listeners, and look at that movie poster and see if anybody these days could get away with such a poster.
No, it's unsettling even for the 70s.
Exactly. I saw it. I was like, Jesus Christ, look at this.
However, I got to say the tagline, if this doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. I don't know why, but that just seems, it just seems like a very typical marketing ploy of the day. It fits hand in hand almost with, we'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a very awful tagline. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
The movie itself was based on the Babysitter and the Man Upstairs urban legend, which I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with. I first heard this urban legend when I was a goddamn kid, and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. What a twisted thing for a 9-year-old to read about.
No, I didn't know that, but I could totally see that now.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing. Was this the first movie, do you know, that had that twist?
It was the first feature-length movie that had that. When a Stranger Calls came out in 1979, which is, I don't know, maybe the more popular, the more obvious of the Babysitter and the Man Upstairs. That came
Turns out they're just a bunch of fucking hacks.
So that came out in 79. I've not seen that. I did see the remake, the 2006 remake, and it's whatever.
Was it as bad as it seemed to be? I mean, there wasn't anything appealing in that made me want to rush out and see it.
It wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. It's also
there's a blurb for the movie poster.
Right. It's also Tessa Thompson's first movie. The movie was directed by Bob Clark, who went on to executive produce in 1975 a movie called Moonrunners. This probably does not sound familiar. However, the movie went on to be reworked for television as The Dukes of Hazzard, which makes Moonrunners a must-watch for this program. I have to say it now.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, because The Dukes of Hazzard was my jam when I was a kid, and I mean, even characters and the General Lee and everything were taken straight from that movie, so now I have to see it.
Now, would that fall into the car exploitation genre?
That's a good question. Maybe. It just might, actually.
I think it might.
He also went on to direct Porky's and Porky's 2 the next day. Ha ha ha.
Never seen those movies.
Me neither. Probably should. This one you probably have seen. He directed A Christmas Story.
Oh, come on. Everybody's seen that multiple times.
And he won the Golden Raspberry for Worst Director for a movie called Rhinestone, starring Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton.
Another movie that I know by reputation.
Yes.
Isn't that the movie where Sylvester Stallone tries to sing and fails miserably?
Yep, that's the very one. That's it.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately, his last credit as a director, he directed a TV movie called The Karate Dog.
Oh, my God.
And what's funny about that is the blurb on the ad I saw said, featuring the voice of Chevy Chase. And if that didn't make me laugh.
Man, that's one of those jobs where you just kind of reevaluate your life choices, I'd imagine.
Black Christmas was released on October 11, 1974 in Canada, where it was made, and December 20th in the U.S. under a different title. It was released under the title of Silent Night, Evil Night.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Because obviously, Black Christmas, oh no, blaxploitation. However, even worse, the screenplay was written under the title of Stop Me, which is god-awful. Thank you for changing it.
Wow.
Apparently, director Bob Clark freely altered the dialogue in the movie because he felt the way that college students in movies, the way they talked, hadn't really been captured with any sense of reality. He said, college students, even in 1974, are astute people. They're not fools. It's not all bikinis, beach blankets, and bingo.
I mean, mostly.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in college I was talking about that bingo. I will say the dialogue in this movie was a lot better than I expected, so props to Bob Clark.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a common theme for me. A lot better than I expected.
Yeah, me too. A lot of a lot of foreshadowing here, but me too. It was overall a lot better than I expected. Olivia, gosh, I don't think this is the way you pronounce her name, but it's probably Husey, but I think it's Hussey. I don't know. It's Hussey, and I didn't bother to look up the pronunciation. She plays the lead in the movie, Jess Bradford, and she is also Hey Girl Hey.
Yeah, probably most famous for what Romeo and Juliet. I can't remember. Was it Antonini that directed that version
Yep,
back in '69?
yep, that's the one. She was famous because of that, and she took this movie because she visited a psychic who told her that she would make a film in Canada that would earn a good deal of or a great deal of money, which is even better than a good deal, a great deal of money. Which,
Wow.
yeah, Black Christmas made $4 million on a $620,000 budget. So I don't know. I guess it's a great deal of money to me. I don't know what Miss Olivia there thinks, but
Well, it's also Canadian currency, so it's worth probably about what 125 down here.
probably. Don't they use like maple leafs as dollars or something? I don't know what happens there.
All I know is they don't have pennies.
Yeah, which is a good thing because who needs the fuckers? The great Gilda Radner was initially cast as Phyllis or Phil in the movie, but had to drop out because of her new commitments with a little program called Saturday Night Live.
Probably the right choice, I'd imagine, in retrospect.
I think so. Other factoids, Elvis loved this movie, and it was a Christmas tradition for him to watch it at Graceland.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Anytime I think that, I can't find any more fucked up facts about Elvis.
Right. Olivia said the first time that she met Steve Martin I read this one spot, and it's the only spot I saw. Apparently, she might have auditioned for the movie Roxanne. But when she first met Steve Martin, he said that she starred in one of his favorite movies ever. She thought he was talking about Romeo and Juliet, which you mentioned. He was talking about Black Christmas, one of his favorite movies ever that he said he watched 27 times.
Oddly enough, that seems like a very Steve Martin thing to say.
I think so, too. So the movie itself, it starts off, there's a Christmas party taking place at a sorority house, and it starts off with a first-person point of view shot of someone stalking the place. And I didn't realize this at the time, but apparently in the first scene, you can see all the lights on in the house except in the attic. The attic lights are off. So he breaks into the house for the first time and starts watching the festivities from afar, and you can hear breathing noises. Like it sounds like he's got a deviated septum or something. You should really check that out.
Yeah, and I actually thought that was really effective because not only does it have the same kind of vibes that you get from the point of view shots from the original Halloween, but this is something you're in your home. You're supposed to feel safe, secure. You're not supposed to worry about some creeper in the attic stalking you. I thought that was very well done.
I did too, and I did not expect that whatsoever.
No.
According to Bob Clark in an interview with Icons of Fright, a website, the POV shots weren't done with Steadicam because that wasn't invented until 1976. So the camera operator, Burt Dunk, quote, designed a camera rig that he attached to his head. No one had ever done that before. Those were his hands climbing with the small camera. There's a scene where he climbs a trellis. That's actually the cameraman with a camera strapped to his head climbing that trellis.
God.
I know, that's
Yeah, those cameras, especially back in that day, weren't light.
No, and I'm watching him climb up that trellis. I'm like, man, is that even safe? Like,
probably not.
I hope that's really fastened tightly to the house. And it's funny you brought up Halloween because in the same interview he said, Bob Clark said, I never intended ever to do a sequel. I did a film about 3 years later, started a film with John Carpenter. It was his first film for Warner Brothers. He asked me if I was ever going to do a sequel, and I said no. I was through with horror. I didn't come into the business to do horror. He said, well, what would you do if you did do a sequel? I said it would be the next year, and the guy would have actually been caught, escape from a mental institution, go back to the house, and they would start it all over again, and I would call it Halloween.
Holy shit.
Holy shit. He also says in the same interview that Carpenter liked Black Christmas and may have been influenced by it, but in no way did he copy the idea. 15 other people had thought to do a movie called Halloween, but the script came to John with that title on it. But I think if you watch Black Christmas and then you watch Halloween, I think it's kind of obvious that he was indeed influenced by Black Christmas.
Yeah, and I don't want it to seem like he ripped off Bob Clark, because there's a lot of innovation that Carpenter did, but they're strikingly similar.
Yeah, they are, and like Bob said, he didn't rip it off. You know?
No,
they're different enough. I mean, just based on the I don't know what you call him, Michael Myers, the protagonist. I mean, he's not, but he's like the main character, really.
I guess you could say that. I always kind of pictured Laurie as the main character.
Kind of, but in retrospect, when you look at the series as a whole, obviously,
the series, yes, absolutely.
Anyways, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting factoid.
That is.
The POV shots are, like you said, are very effective though. Very creepy, especially the way they're done with the shallow breathing sounds. And the fact that you can just see his hands, and that will be a thing that continues all throughout the movie. You just see his hands, especially when he's about to kill somebody. You see his hands on the weapon, but we'll get there. So during the party, a phone call is made, and apparently the sorority house has been getting these for a while. And
what do they call him? The moaner or the groaner or something like that?
Something like that. So apparently it's been going on for a while. I think they call him the moaner, yeah. And they pick up the phone, and it's a man making weird groans and kind of giggling and then making incomprehensible noises. And then he starts giggling and grunting like a pig and saying things like, "Let me lick it." He drops the C word a couple times, which had to have been scandalous for that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Back in 1974, I'm sure that pearls were clutched nationwide in the Great White North.
Yes. When he said, "Let me lick it," though, it kind of sounds like the phone voice you hear from the Ghostface Killers in Scream. It reminded me of that quite a bit, and I'm wondering, Wes Craven had to have seen this movie. I mean,
oh, of course.
I'm sure it had to have influenced that on some level, because they were too similar not to. I don't know. Maybe it was a good
Well, I mean, he, borrowed from so many movies. It would only make sense that he would, be influenced by this movie as well for that project.
Yeah. And the final thing he says is, "I'm going to kill you," before he hangs up on Barb, played by Margot Kidder, who is definitely a spark plug in this movie. Like, all the qualities that would make her an excellent Lois Lane 4 years later are on display here.
Yeah, she was definitely a standout, and what actually surprisingly was a phenomenal cast.
Yeah, I mean, you go into a movie like this based on what you think in your head it's going to be, and when you see the actual performances, it kind of blows you away. Olivia's performance as Jess, she's like almost, I don't know, too actorly to be in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, I don't want to say she was too good for it, but you could tell that she was used to different productions.
Yeah, you could tell that Romeo and Juliet was her big break, just the way she enunciated words and things like that. But I felt like she was a good, quote, final girl for this movie. She had that innocent look about her. I thought it was effective.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, the phone calls were a bunch of different people in the crew that would make noises and giggle. One of the guys, Nick Mancuso, would stand on his head during the recording sessions for the phone call, kind of compress his abdomen, and that's how the sounds and the voices came out all different. And I will say they're pretty disconcerting.
Well, yeah, I mean, that initial phone call, I don't know why, but I found the most disturbing thing where he just kind of, at the very end, calmly, matter-of-factly, and clearly says, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, after all that ridiculousness, he's like, I'm going to kill you, and then hangs up.
Y-
You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, yeah, that was just very, very creepy.
So during the party, Claire wanders off to pack her bags or something because her dad's coming into town. And he immediately kills her, puts the bag over her head, and ties her to a rocking chair and retreats back into the attic. Somehow he ends up with her corpse in the rocking chair in the attic. I don't know how that happened. Maybe I missed that part.
I kind of got the impression that he was just kind of collecting the girls, or at least a couple of them.
Yeah, was the rocking chair already in the attic? It must have been.
It must have
He
been,
must have
yeah.
carried the body up there. So he puts a plastic bag over her face. She suffocates. Her mouth is wide open as a scream. Her eyes are wide open. Holy shit! It's very creepy.
Very unsettling image, yes.
The person that played Claire actually said that she had to hold her breath during those scenes. That was, I mean, obviously they didn't have the types of special effects we do now. That was actually her with the plastic bag over her head, eyes wide open, mouth wide open. She said she was a good swimmer and could hold her breath for long periods of time, so it really helped her out in those scenes, which, yeah, no shit.
God, just imagine how hot that would be, especially with all the lights that you would need in order to shoot that film.
Oh, it'd be awful.
God.
So awful. And again, that's the iconic shot they chose to put on the poster for Better or Worse in the 70s. And I saw a few different versions of it, and quite a few of them, that's the main image, is her with the bag over her head.
Well, it's definitely an attention getter. I mean,
Yeah.
from a marketing standpoint, I don't want to say it's a great idea, but it's definitely, that'll make you at least wonder what that movie's about.
Yeah, it'll get you talking for sure. I can't imagine many movie theaters in the country like displaying it proudly in their lobby, but I don't know. Maybe they did. What do I know? Then again, they showed like Deep Throat and stuff in regular movie theaters, so maybe they did.
Yeah, the 1970s were a weird time, I guess.
I guess so. During the party, Jess's boyfriend calls, and Jess says that they need to talk in person, and Peter, the boyfriend, ends the call by saying, I love you, and she pulls the old Han Solo and says, I know, and that was it. That's never a good sign. You don't tell...
One little bit of trivia that I did manage to dig up. Do you know who it was that played her boyfriend?
I read and I forgot. Yeah, go ahead.
I can't remember the actor's name, but it was the same person that played Dave in 2001.
Yeah, that's
Space
right.
Odyssey.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he looked a lot older than he should have been. There's no way that guy was college age.
No, not at all. Yeah, everyone else you can buy, he looked like he was 45.
Exactly, yeah.
Although he did bitch and moan about how he was tired of sitting in piano halls and conservatories for 8 straight years. I'm like, God damn, dude. So maybe he was 45. Meanwhile, we cut to the headmistress who has booze hidden throughout the entire house, like in hollowed out books, backs of toilets, whatever.
I was highly entertained by her.
Yeah. I mean, and that was a good bit of comic relief. Also,
had an unusual appearance. I'll admit that she kind of looked like Rod Steiger dressed as the Penguin.
And her booze habit is only matched by Barb, Margot Kidder's character, who's just slamming them left and right, and whose greatest personality trait seems to be she's drunk all the time.
Yeah, typical Canadian college girl, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I mean, they are going to college. Don't pretend you didn't drink in college, folks.
Exactly.
Especially around the holidays. Oof. Claire's dad shows up the next day, and he's wandering around at the place they were supposed to meet. Can't find her. Where is she at? I don't know. Jess meets up with Peter the next day, tells him that she is pregnant. And also, she's decided to have an abortion. But Peter wants to keep it, though, because he wants to have a baby with her. That was...
Yeah, kind of... I don't know. I don't think he read the book How to Influence People and Win Friends.
Probably not. He was kind of a douche about it. Kind of a surprising subplot, I thought. Kind of also controversial.
Yeah.
Topical. I didn't expect such like nuance in the characters, because that's the one thing that I did notice. Like, the characters were actually not, for the most part, not disposable like archetypes of characters. They actually had personalities and goals and opinions and stuff, which was very, very refreshing, especially for a slasher movie.
Though, can you really call this a slasher movie just because it happened to be... It inspired a lot of slasher movies, but when I hear slasher movie, I think cheap, poorly made, just fodder that you push out in order to make a quick profit. I don't know if I would even really call this a slasher movie.
Maybe not. It's more of a thriller, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess the only way, I don't know, kind of conflicted based on the fact that there is a bunch of murders and a body count and things of that nature. Man. I wonder where the term slasher even came from, actually, now that I think about it. Like, what movie was that coined from? When did it start?
I don't know. I always kind of figured it was like a fan-generated type of label. I was going to say, one of the things about the characters that I really liked is they were all believable. And on top of that, the actions that you had in this movie actually showed consequences. Because someone dies in Friday the 13th, well, okay, no big deal. Nobody really even talks about it much. One of the central plot lines of this movie was the search for Claire.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, in some of it, I thought was borderline comical with the makeshift search parties going door to door, brandishing weapons in people's faces, saying, "Don't worry, ma'am, you're safe."
Yeah, that was comical and kind of, I don't know, it kind of felt out of place a little bit.
I kind of figured it was just to maybe relieve the tension, which in a movie like that, I don't know if you want to relieve the tension necessarily.
Yeah, so Peter kind of throws a bitch fit because he wants what he wants, and just obviously wants something else. I don't necessarily blame her, because this Peter guy seems like a real stiff.
Kind of a clingy dickhole, if you ask me.
Yep. We cut to another scene where the sorority house is teaming up with the frat house or something, and they're throwing a kids party with Santa, and Barb is feeding beer to kids at the Santa party, which is great.
And I just loved the huge fro that chubby guy with the bushy mustache and huge glasses had. I love that this is dated in a way that, I don't want to make it sound like it's a time capsule sort of thing, but it's just like a nice little window in what life was like in 1974 Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who that man is, and I'm not going to look it up, but that dude is pure 70s. That's his new name.
Yes, he should have had his own movie, Bob Clark.
Yeah, Bob Clark. If you only had some vision, you would have made a movie called Pure 70s, and that man would have been in it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. At some point, Jess answers the phone again when it rings, because that's what you do when the phone rings. There's no answer machines. You got to see who's on the line. And again, it's a bunch of weird voices, but this time you hear something like, "Where did you put Agnes, Billy?"
All right, now, you know what? I would say that was one of the main complaints I had about this. I had a hard time understanding what was being said on the other end of the phone.
Uh-huh.
I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm getting old and my hearing's not what it used to be, but it was just too damn garbled a lot of times.
I understand why you could probably have that problem. I watched it on my computer with headphones in. That's probably why I was able to understand. If you're watching on a TV, though, I doubt it. I doubt you could hear what he was actually saying.
Are they trying to convey his origin story through these calls?
I think so. I think that was at least to establish some sort of backstory, maybe some sort of motivation. However, spoiler, you never see the killer really, other than one scene. You see him in deep, dark shadows. You never see him. You never know really what his name is, other than it might be Billy. He's listed in the credits as the Prowler. And you don't know his motivations, his origin story, anything like that.
Which kind of makes it scarier in a way.
I agree, which is why the 2006 remake, which I will get to, is a piece of trash. Anyways, so Barb and Claire's dad go to the police to file a missing persons report because they can't find Claire anywhere. They have no idea she's in the attic in a rocking chair with a bag over her head. Peter blows his big audition in front of, who knows, musical gurus or whatever. He blows it. He's all nerves and shit. Smashes his piano. I don't know what word I just said. Smashes his piano like a little bitch fit because, man, nothing's just going his way these days.
We've all been there.
Claire's dad and lesser friends to help had a search party to look for Claire, and also a 13-year-old named Janice who had went missing after walking through a park, which was just randomly thrown in there for some reason. They find the missing girl, but they don't show what happened to her, which I think makes it even worse, really.
Yeah, it's one of those, you don't show the monster because it can never be scarier than what the audience thinks of on their own type of deals.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing about this movie. It's not really that gory. Most of the kills happen, they cut away from the actual violence, other than
very, very little blood actually.
Yep. So the gore that you would see in the 80s is not present here at all. I mean,
nor was the gratuitous nudity.
There was no nudity whatsoever.
Highly disappointed in that, sir.
I know. I'm sorry. You wanted some of that great 70s Bush, but this did not provide that at all. Actually, I was a little bit shocked by that too. I was expecting a lot sleazier movie than what I got.
Yeah. Well, with the title like Black Christmas, you kind of walk into it, and then you throw that poster onto it. It's like, okay, this is going to be just down and grimy, and not really.
No, it's actually a well put together, engrossing story with good characters and a decent plot and great actors. And yeah, I was highly satisfied. Meanwhile, the headmistress is looking for a missing cat, Claude, shouts his name approximately 245 times in a 2-minute span, looking for this damn cat. Like, I would never wish ill will to anyone in real life, but fictional characters, completely different story. I wanted to see that lady die just because she said Claude 1,000,000 times, and I was tired of it.
Well, and she ruined a perfectly good set of encyclopedias, too.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never recover that letter B anymore. You
never. No.
B for booze. So she goes to the attic because that's where the cat's meowing because it's licking the plastic bag over the head of Claire, presumably because cats are evil and it wants to eat the corpse. She goes in the attic and gets a hook to the eye or head or something.
Yeah, that just kind of came out of nowhere. It actually looked almost like a pulley. It's like, why do you have a pulley set up in your attic?
Yeah, it was like a pulley system with like a grappling hook, like a tow chain hook on the end of it.
Yeah.
And it was just hanging there. I'm like, why is that there? Don't know. But now it was in her head. So they're still looking for Claire. They have no idea what's going on. The 13-year-old they found dead. Everyone's kind of on edge.
And there was also, you forgot to mention, I guess, a town person lady had been raped a couple weeks prior to the start of all of this. So the town is definitely on edge.
Really? I missed that part.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh. And I would almost say that would be a different person, though, because he doesn't really, that we see, do anything sexual to the...
The calls were fairly sexual in nature to start out with.
Oh, that's true. I guess you're right. I guess I'm wrong. That's a good point. Peter is suspiciously at the house when Jess comes home. He was apparently upstairs taking a nap right when she had gotten a call. Jess had gotten another call. Peter comes stumbling down the stairs. He didn't hear the headmistress yelling Claude at all. Didn't hear her screams as she got murdered. That sounds fishy.
They're in all fairness, there are certain leaps of logic that you have to take to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, exactly. You know what they're doing. They're setting him up to be the main suspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious. And I wasn't buying it. I'm like, this guy's too much of a doofus to even whatever. He announces to Jess that he's leaving the conservatory because he's sick of spending all his last 8 years in one room. Apparently that's not helped him whatsoever because he still sucks at the piano because he bombed his recital. So, yeah, maybe you should throw in the towel, son.
Boy, Mom and Dad, you got to be happy with how that tuition turned out.
Yeah, you got a 45-year-old college student with those sideburns and that haircut. Not only that, but his exact quote was, "I'm quitting the conservatory and we're getting married." And Jess's look,
kind of a Neanderthal in that regard.
Yeah, the look on her face is one of actual what the fuck. She's like, what? Nah. She says that he can't expect her to give up on all her goals and ambitions just because he's quitting his dreams. And I'm like, oh snap. These women actually have like a voice in these movies. That's great. She flat out says, I don't want to marry you. And Peter's like, now let's talk about the baby. And she said, I'm getting an abortion. And Peter says, you selfish bitch. You're talking about getting rid of a baby like getting a wart removed, and smashes a Christmas bulb. And then he vows that Jess is going to be very, very sorry if she gets that abortion.
That's how you woo a lady.
If she wasn't sold before, she certainly is now.
Yeah. What better way to make a woman want to marry you than by saying you'll be sorry?
Yeah. And comparing a baby to a wart, that's pretty nice too. The cops show up to put a tap on the phone after Jess finally calls the police station to complain about the groaner. She said that she thought it was a call from a woman. Meanwhile, Peter, once he stormed out of the house, he's been lurking around in the shadows the whole time outside of the house. Like, what are you doing, you creep?
Seriously, how does he think this is okay?
I
can understand being heartbroken, frustrated at your prospects as a musician, worried that you're going to, lose a baby that you didn't know about 5 minutes ago. But come on, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. She clearly wants nothing to do. She wants to move on with her life, and you're being a stage 5 clinger. You need to knock it off, dude.
Yes.
And after we see Peter lurking in the shadows outside, we cut to a scene where the killer is rocking the dead Claire in the rocking chair, and he put a weird doll in her arms like a baby, which was just creepy as all shit.
I was going to say, that's probably the most disturbing shot in the entire movie right there.
Yeah, because you've got Claire's still wide open eyes and her mouth in a silent scream, and the baby and rocking back and forth. You see his hand pushing her. Ugh.
Yeah, that was very, very disturbing.
Yep. Everyone's on high alert. Barb was upstairs drunk and had an asthma attack, so Jess ran up there to check on her. Here's a group of Christmas carolers outside, goes to watch them, because she's a sweet girl. She loves such things. And meanwhile, Billy, who we're calling him, sneaks into Barb's room and stabs her with a crystal unicorn sculpture. And believe me, the phallic symbol on that horse's head was not lost on me. We get it.
Yes. Now, real quick, my big question with this whole sequence, do people actually go caroling? Have you ever seen it?
I have not seen it in real life. I think it is a thing that does happen. I've known people that have done it.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Hey, however you choose to celebrate the birth of the Lord, more power to you.
I guarantee you, in Frankenmuth, Michigan, home of the biggest Christmas store in the world, I guarantee there's a group of carolers that goes around town. Guarantee it.
Damn it! Now I want to hunt them like they're Bigfoot. Now I just want to see if they're real.
Catch them in the wild.
Yes.
Sing me, hark, all you angels. It's similar to hearing a Yeti tapping on a tree in the woods.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right before he murders Barb, he says, Agnes, it's me, Billy. It's all right, Agnes. It's all right. Shh, pretty Agnes. And then stabs her with the phallic symbol repeatedly. And then
and nobody heard her screaming.
Well, because, the carolers, they were singing real pretty like.
I guess.
Yeah. Jess gets another call, and it sounds like a woman whimpering. And then at the very end, the voice says, just like having a wart removed. And she's a little bit freaked out by this. And she says, oh, my God. And the police lieutenant, on the other hand, catches a hold of that. And is like, hey, what's going on here? We completely forgot to mention there's a buffoonish sergeant that works at the police station who's like the Barney Fife of the place, just completely a moron and screws up at every turn. Has no idea.
A grown man who doesn't know what fellatio is.
Yes. Barb had been in the police station earlier in the movie and gave him her number, and fellatio was written on it, and he had no idea what it was. And they were cracking up at him. And he goes, oh, what is it? I bet it's dirty. Is that dirty? He had no clue. I mean, you need to get hip to the ways of the world, sir. You don't want to be a 43-year-old virgin.
Especially in the middle of a goddamn sexual revolution like the 1970s.
Yeah, just refer back to the Wicker Man that we covered. Yeah, you don't want to be a 43-year-old virgin. You'll get sacrificed, all right? So get on that. I thought it was interesting, too, in these scenes. They actually show how they tap and trace a phone call back then, which I found was very interesting.
I did too, actually.
How would you they kind of race between huge banks of like phone lines, or I don't even know how to explain it.
I think that was the way they were kind of like tracing where the signal was coming from physically.
Yeah. There was like a big bank of they looked like, I know they weren't, but they looked like computer servers, but they were running around trying to see. I don't know how it was done. I thought it was interesting because I had never seen it before, but I digress. The police call back because she wasn't on the phone long enough. And then Peter calls back right away, and he's crying and whining and saying, don't hurt the baby. So, and Jess is pretty convinced that the killer couldn't be Peter because he was at the house when one of the calls came in earlier. So it couldn't be him. And then there's another call, and there's lots of oinks and meows, and he calls Jess a fat pig and says, where's the baby? Where's Agnes? You left the baby alone with Billy? So again, you get glimpses into the killer's backstory, but you have no idea what's going on.
Now, I couldn't understand what the hell was going on, but that explains the baby doll in Claire's arms.
Yep, exactly. So he seems to be referring to himself as Billy, and then there's Agnes, who you don't know exactly who Agnes is. The sergeant goes to the conservatory to see the mess that Peter made of his piano, begins to suspect that Peter might be the killer the whole time. He gets a call from the station because the last call was of long enough duration they were able to trace it, and the calls are coming from inside the house. So there you get the babysitter and the man upstairs urban legend.
Now, here's my thing. I don't care how big the house is. How did they not hear all that noise that he was making on the phone calls?
Yeah, it is a big sorority house, but I doubt there's a phone in the attic.
Yeah, every time the phone would ring, you'd hear it coming from the attic, you'd imagine.
I don't understand how you can make a phone call to your own landline from inside the house. You know what I mean? Is that possible?
My in-laws actually have a system like that.
Sure, but was that around? Well, it must have been.
I'd imagine it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Their basement phone, if you pick up the receiver and hang it up real quick, the other phones in the house will ring.
Oh, interesting. Nash was given explicit instructions to tell Jess just to put the phone down because he's the moronic sergeant. He was told to call Jess, tell her to put the phone down, leave out the front door. Don't tell her that the killer's in the house. He does
So
it
what
anyways.
does this doofus do?
He does it anyways. He tells her not to go up there at all, but of course she does because she's a sweet innocent. She's afraid for the safety of her friends. She screams her name. When they won't answer, she grabs a fireplace poker and starts to walk upstairs. And she finds both bodies of Phyllis, who we didn't mention whatsoever, other than Gilda Radner was going to play her at one point, and Barb stacked on top of each other, stabbed a ton of times. And then Billy starts running after her, all yelling in rage as he goes after Jess. And again, you don't see him. The one time you did see him in shadows, he was standing over Barb with the unicorn. You saw like one slit
Like
of his
one eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I thought that was pretty effective too. And the way the shadows land and everything, it kind of made him look like it was Peter. And it wouldn't,
you could conceivably mistake the two.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if the guy that played Peter actually played the killer in that scene too, just to do it.
Yeah.
So Jess is running away from him. She locks herself in the basement. She sees somebody walking outside, and it's Peter. She sees him peer through one of the windows, looking all distorted and in shadows like the killer did. And then he does the smart thing and breaks the basement window to approach her or go after her or something.
Yeah, any lingering sympathy I had for that character just evaporated when he did that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you break into someone's house like that where they're clearly agitated. No good can come of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, Billy is the killer that kills people, and you don't really see him. He's the bad guy, but Peter's the bad guy you do see. And, like, Billy, he plays with the bodies of the women that he killed and controls what he wants them to do, while Peter tries to own Jess's body in a mental, verbal way and controls what she does. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I think that's a very, very good comparison, sir.
You see Peter approaching. The scene cuts. Police arrive. They hear screams of a woman. And they find Peter and Jess. At first you think they're both dead, but it's just Peter. And Jess had passed out or something. At the very end, you see Jess laying in a bed. There's police around the house. All of a sudden, they all leave for some reason, even though the doctor said he was going to stay with Jess.
It was because Claire's father was there.
Oh, and he was having
he kind of went into shock, and they had to get him to a hospital.
Yeah. But they didn't really do the best job searching the house because in the attic is the corpse of the headmistress, the corpse of Claire, and the killer is still up there. And the very last scene is the phone ringing once again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think that Jess killed Peter, or do you think the killer killed Peter?
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that.
I know. At first, I was like, "Oh, she killed," and then I was like, "Well, since the killer's still alive, maybe."
Well, I think that Jess killed him because for a while he was trying to get into that little basement, but it was locked shut, and he just went away.
Yeah.
And that's when Peter broke into the basement.
Yeah.
So she was already agitated in fear of her life, had a poker. I'd imagine that, yeah, I would imagine, yeah, she killed him, but it's possible that Billy did it.
Yeah. I think she probably did kill him. But I don't know. So we don't know what happened to Jess at all. The last we see her, she's in the bed and the killer is upstairs. So who knows what happens? Who knows?
Well, I'd imagine that chances are, the police thought that Peter was the killer. He's no longer a threat. Chances are they just let her sleep for a little while they take Claire's father to the hospital. It's very possible that Billy went down and finished the job.
I would think that would be what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very creepy story. A lot better done than I expected. I'm not sure why this movie isn't more well known now that I've seen it. I know. I mean, it's
honestly, yeah. I mean, it should be a classic.
yeah. I mean, I know that people know of it, but I don't think that many have actually seen it, and that's a shame because they should.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with the cast. One person that you didn't mention in there, I think her name, yeah, Andrea Martin from SCTV.
Yeah, she played the character of Phyllis, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. All of the acting was very, very well done. The characters were believable. I thought it was really interesting when Margot Kidder's character, you could tell, was just racked with guilt for some reason over Claire's disappearance.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a very, very well-made movie, and it's kind of a shame that Bob Clark had no more desire to go back to horror because he was pretty damn good at it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a shame he thought he was, I don't know. He didn't go in, like he said, he didn't come into the business to do horror. Who knows what his aspirations were. I think in that same interview he said that he had the best time making Porky's, so maybe he should have made more comedies. I don't know. Yeah. So I mentioned it earlier. I did fall on my own sword once again, as I did with The Wicker Man. I watched the inferior remake, which came out in 2006 as Black Xmas. Yeah, that's right. Black Xmas. It was released by Dimension, which
that's not a good sign usually.
Yeah, if you don't know, Dimension was to horror in the mid 90s and early 2000s what Blumhouse is to horror now. Which, by the way, Blumhouse is releasing their own version of Black Christmas.
Oh, good Lord.
Yes, we'll get to that too. So Black Christmas is completely Screamified. You take what they did in Scream and they're like, let's do it again right here, but with less wit and charismatic leads and see what happens.
Does the entire cast look like they belong in an Abercrombie catalog?
Oh, absolutely. They're all the prettiest people. Their eyebrows are perfect. The main character is Katie Cassidy, again from Arrow. She plays a girl named Kelly, and Michelle Trachtenberg is in it, and Mary Elizabeth Weinsted's in it, and some other randoms that I don't really know, but they were all pretty, and So the thing they decided to do in this one, instead of making it a thriller, they decided to make it a gory, disgusting. This was the grimy, disgusting movie I expected to see when I watched Black Christmas. Instead, it was here in 2006 without any nuance or any sort of, I don't know, care to the material. So they decided to give and show the entire backstory of Billy.
I can already imagine it's nowhere near as interesting an approach as what they did in the original.
Not at all. So Billy, when the movie first opens up, he's in an insane asylum for killing his family on Christmas. And you find, you find out he had been locked up in his attic by his mom. He ends up escaping from the, I can't even say it with a straight face, from the institution after killing a security guard with a sharpened candy cane to the neck. He licked the candy cane to a point and hid until the security guard opened the door, and then he stabbed him in the jugular with the candy cane.
This is making Silent Night, Deadly Night look subtle by comparison.
Exactly. He also has a weird backstory. For whatever reason, he was born with a rare liver disease that gave him yellow skin. He was jaundiced, basically, forever. So he's forever yellow for some reason.
That yellow bastard.
Exactly. That's immediately what I thought of. As the plot moves forward, it switches from the sorority house to flashbacks to Billy's life, which is great. So Billy was born to a mom that didn't like him and a dad that loved him a lot. The mom wanted nothing to do with him. The dad did everything for him. Mom didn't like him because he had that yellow skin, because he was different, of course. So after a few years, Billy turned, I think, 8 years old or something. Mom started sleeping around on Billy's dad, and then the boyfriend showed up one day, put a plastic bag over Billy's dad's head, so he suffocated, and he punched the shit out of the bag, which becomes, in this movie, Billy's go-to move, how he kills all the people. So the plastic bag makes another appearance. And indeed, he does put a plastic bag over a girl's head and puts her in a rocking chair as well. So, I mean, that's okay, right? Mom locks...
So they basically made him a classic woman hater. They took a genre of film that's notorious for not being very enlightened and made it even less so.
Exactly.
Wow.
But it gets even worse. So they lock Billy in the attic. Mom and the new boyfriend, instead of killing him, they lock him in the attic because they've got morals, apparently. One night, Mom's trying to rail the shit out of the old boyfriend there, and he's passed out drunk on the stairs. Can't get it up. He's whatever. So she, yes, this is what happens, goes upstairs to the attic, and guess what happens?
Pulley to the face.
Nope. She rapes Billy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's not all. 9 months later, a baby is born. And yes, that
Oh,
baby's
my-
name is Agnes. Yes, it is. So you have the Billy and Agnes that were referenced in the original movie, now given a disgusting, horrible backstory. And of course, it turns out one of the sorority girls in the sorority house is Agnes. So Billy's sister/daughter is in the sorority house, and she helps him kill the sorority sisters because, of course. So like Scream, you have the two killers. Apparently, originally, the filmmakers wanted to end the movie with like a random phone call. That wasn't good enough for the Weinsteins. They wanted blood and doom. So Katie Cassidy pushes him off a stairwell or something, and he gets impaled on a fucking Christmas tree.
Is it appropriate for me to be embarrassed for Katie Cassidy right now?
Probably. But she didn't learn, because apparently there's a Black Christmas 2, which follows after this movie. And it also stars Willa Holland and Katie Lotz, also from Arrow.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this movie, God damn it, the killer in this movie is Edward, who was the secret son of, yes, Billy and Agnes.
Oh, Billy and Agnes?
Yes.
So he's like double inbred?
Yeah, double inbred. Isn't that great? What a world. I mean, I don't think I could find very little reference to Black Christmas 2, so thank God. I hope all copies of that are burnt and lost to time, because
No. If we live in a world where Tammy and the T-Rex has survived, I guarantee you this movie's out there.
I will defend Tammy and the T-Rex to my dying day.
Compared to what you described to me, you have every right to.
So, like I said, Blumhouse is coming out with Black Christmas on Friday the 13th in December, coming up here. And it really seems to be a different take on the movie. The blurb from Universal is, Hawthorne College is quieting down for the holidays. One by one, sorority girls on campus are being killed by an unknown stalker, but the killer is about to discover that this generation's young women aren't willing to become helpless victims as they mount a fight to the finish. So it stars Imogen Poots and Carrie Elwes, and if you watch the trailer, it gives the twist away right off the bat. Carrie Elwes is the bad guy, and there seems to be a cult or something. But what's notable about the movie, there was a big to-do recently on the rating of the movie, because it's rated PG-13, and that's a big stink, apparently.
Yeah, PG-13 horror tends not to be worth it.
Yeah. The screenwriter April Wolf said on Twitter, "Here's the deal. We wrote it with an R rating in mind. When they did test screenings, it was clear that this movie needed to be available to a younger female audience because the subject matter is timely. Also, I want to indoctrinate girls into horror. It doesn't make it any less vicious."
Doesn't make it any better.
Doesn't make it any better either.
And you remember what I was telling you? My definition of a slasher film is just cheap, put out there for a quick profit, no real care given to the craft of actually making a film. That's what this seems. Both of these remakes seem to be.
Yeah. The director, Sophia Takal, I guess, told Entertainment Weekly, "My version of Black Christmas is about a group of women who are sorority sisters at a college who start to disappear one by one. The remaining sisters have to figure out why these women are disappearing and who's responsible for it. And eventually, once they figure out who the bad guy is, they have to fight for survival. The original Black Christmas felt so contemporary and modern for the time. I wanted to make something that reflected our time right now. For me, it was about what does it feel like to be a woman in 2019. So I immediately know what every guy on every troll is going to say. Oh, this is the Me Too movie.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's what I say too. Whatever. I think.
I shouldn't prejudge it without even seeing a trailer. It could be good, but it just seems. I don't know. They lost me with the PG-13.
Yeah. Apparently there's a new Fangoria magazine. It's probably only online, but
really,
yeah, I need to check it out.
Yeah.
The new editor-in-chief, Phil Noble Jr., said on Twitter, "So now we have a gory Black Christmas, a trauma-inducing Black Christmas with Margot Kidder and the C word, and a Black Christmas to indoctrinate tweens into horror. Who loses?" Which is an interesting point of view. You got something for everyone now. And it's not like the original went away. Maybe a remake causes more people to see the original, which would be a good thing to do because I highly, highly recommend it.
Yes. Yeah. It should be a classic. It really should be.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, people, see the Black Christmas. Don't you agree?
Yes. Let us know which one you saw and what you think of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it sounds like there's plenty to choose from.
There's plenty. If anyone sees Black Christmas 2019, shoot me a message on the Twitter at mretailslave and let me know because I want to know what it looks like.
I'm oddly curious, but I don't want to pay for that.
No, I won't see it till it's on like VOD or whatever.
Exactly. Maybe on Netflix or Disney Plus. I don't know.
Yeah, Disney Plus. It'll fit right in.
Well, it's for tweens, but
right.
It fits.
It'll fit right next to High School Musical and whatever.
Only makes sense.
Yep. Tell the people where they can find you, Mr. Tongo.
You can find me on a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. It's basically a show about a couple dorks getting together, drinking some beers, and talk about the stuff that they geek out on. And if you want to reach me on Twitter, you can find me at The Drunken Dork. On Facebook, you can find me at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group.
Perfect. And I am at mretailslave. You can join the movie podcast Twitter at Fave Podcast, FAVE on the Twitter podcast. And Instagram, search the hashtag Miserable Retail Slave. There's an account for this show and the other. Follow them both if you so choose. The other show is Miserable Retail Slave. It's a big dumb comedy show. We are fairly regularly these days in the improv comedy charts on iTunes or Apple Podcast, if you will. So give us a shot. You might laugh a little. And the best thing you could do.
And not to blow smoke, but you deserve the recognition that you're getting on iTunes. You have, bar none, one of the better comedy shows out there.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And this is the little podcast that could. So if you enjoy what you hear, if you have people in your life that love hearing about movies, obscure B movies, or just movie lovers in general, point them in our direction. We could use the listens. That'd be great. That'd be the best thing you could possibly do.
That's what we want for Christmas. More love.
Yeah. We are gearing up here. This is I don't have a really trendy name for this, but we're about to dive into some horror
Some
movies.
Christmas chillers, huh?
Christmas chillers. Yeah, that's a good enough name for anybody. That's my favorite Goosebumps book, Christmas chillers. We're about to do a deep dive in some Christmas horror movies because what better way to celebrate the holidays? Holidays are frightening enough, what with all the bills and the obligations and responsibilities and familial interaction. Ugh. Awkward.
Family.
Yeah. So we're going to help you with that horror by giving you more horror. So tune in all month for that, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.